Second.
Okay. Everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the Audit and Finance Committee on on May 26, 2022. I'm Matthew Peter, Deputy Chair of Audit and Finance, filling in for Chairwoman Wanda Willingham, who is excused this evening. Majority Council, will you please read the roll?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Willingham is excused. Mr. Peter?
Present.
Bergdorf?
Present.
Clay? I see him. Grimm?
Present.
Ray Joyce?
Here.
Lakakis?
Here.
Mr. Mayo is excused tonight, and Brewski.
Here.
7 present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Majority Council. Our next order of business is approving the previous meeting minutes. Unless there's an exception, I will take a motion to move this.
So moved.
By Ms. Lakakis,
Second.
by Mr. Grimm. All in favor?
Akis.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, I believe item number 2, Majority Council, has been tabled at the request of the sponsor. Is that so?
That is correct.
Okay, then moving right along to number 3, why don't you lead us along?
Sure. Item 3 is amending the 2022 Stormwater Coalition budget for membership dues.
Okay, who do we have speaking on that tonight?
That it would be me. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm Nancy Hines, the director of the Stormwater Coalition. The Village of Altamont are requested to join the coalition. This is at the approval of their village board. The coalition board agreed to accept them as members. Their dues will be that $4,704. So this is to amend our budget to accept the membership dues and to create a expenditure line, fees for services, for the same amount. And that's it.
All right, and they joined 10 other municipalities, so welcome to Altamont.
Yeah.
Any questions from the membership?
Yeah, I got a question,
Mr. Grimm?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, how do you determine the fee? That's an odd number. Based on a population or something?
Yeah, it's a mix of population and portion of the municipality in the urbanized area. And there's like a base fee and then an adjusted fees based on size. And this is, they're comparable to Village of Green Island, some of the smaller municipalities.
Now, what do they get for the money? By joining this, they get what?
Okay, what they get is they get access to, well, what the coalition does is we jointly implement a lot of the stormwater MS4 permit. So they get access to information, public participation programs, educational materials, access to mapping technology so they can map their infrastructure. A lot of it is a clearinghouse of information because all of the municipalities are at the same table monthly. So there's a lot of information sharing about how to implement the permit, troubleshooting related to construction activity, things like that.
It makes them easier to meet red tape, basically.
Yeah, very,
You hardly
very
do on
much
their
so.
own.
Yeah, that was their motivation. They were doing it alone. They had been members previously.
Yeah, he
dropped
did a
out
good job.
and decided to come back in.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Peter, or Vice Chair. I don't know which one you are tonight, but yeah.
You know what? It's fine. You got the last name right. We're fine. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Any other questions? All right. With that, I would accept a motion to move this
So moved.
for Mr. Bergdorf, and a second
Second.
for Mr. Brewski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Majority Council?
Item 4 is amending the 2022 Water Purification District budget for administrative adjustments. Mr. Gaudio is here tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gaudio?
Thank you. Yeah, we're looking for a budget amendment to transfer $20,000 into our chief of instrumentation line. We intend to reinstate one of our internal staff members to that line July 1st of this year, and that money will give us adequate funds for the remaining part of this year.
I believe that position was being filled in by someone like in a different title, and now the workload has been increased, so you actually need to fill it. And for the half year, is that accurate?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the membership? Seeing none, I would take a motion to move this if any member would so like to.
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion from Mr. Grimm and a second from Ms. Lakakis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Gaudio.
Aye.
Majority Council?
Item 5 is amending the 2022 Department
Yeah.
of Residential
There
Health
is.
Care Facilities budget
Yeah.
for overtime. And Mr. Slacky is here tonight.
Mr. Slotky,
Yeah.
take it away.
Yeah, thank you. This is to amend our 2022 budget. We've been required, unfortunately required, to utilize budget lines to fund overtime, staffing agencies, information technology, stipends to the staff to deal with the right now current staffing crisis. And we had to move lines not being utilized primarily in staffing. As you can see from the attachment, there's around 60 different adjustments to staffing lines for a total of $1,634,821 to fund budget lines that are paying for overtime, agency, and stipends, etc.
Any questions from any of the members?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you.
Mr. Grimm?
Larry, is the overtime effective? Is there a state mandate on staffing and how many you have to have staff-wise for residents? Is that in place, or have they just talked about that?
Yes, it is in place. It took effect April 1st, 2022. We're required to have 3.5 nursing care hours per resident. And the way that is broken down is 2.2 hours of CNA care, 1.1 hour of nursing care for a total of 3.3 hours. And the 0.2, you're allowed to use either more nursing or more CNAs to get to the 3.5, which currently we're not at, but we strive every day to reach those numbers.
Yeah, what if you don't have enough people? There's a limit to how much overtime you can do, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I mean, we use the agency, which are very high fees, and to try to get to the 3.5. There are fines involved, anywhere from $300 to $2,000 a day by not reaching the 3.5. That's in the legislation. However, both associations, the New York State Health Facilities Association and Leading Age New York, have filed respective lawsuits to try to push off the implementation date as well as the fines. Right now, I don't know of any nursing home in the state of New York that could reach the 3.5 hours per day on a daily basis for their census.
Not one. And they go to the state mandate, not one can do it. That's something. Well, thanks for putting up with that, Larry. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. I see Mr. Bergdorf, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a slight derivation from Mark's question, Larry. I think I read in, I don't know if it was today's paper or yesterday's paper, that another portion of that bill goes into effect on Saturday. Did I get that right? Or you said it went into effect April 1st?
Yeah, it went into effect April 1st. No, there's no other bill that I'm aware of that deals with staffing of the 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only staffing bill out there right now. There's a lot of controversy about this, of course, especially doing it during the tail end of a pandemic and understanding the staffing crisis. This was really created by the previous administration, implemented by the current administration. However, there's been a lot of discussion as to whether there should be fines, whether that 3.5 is a realistic number, and whether it really is going to resolve what they believe to be a problem of quality of care. Hours really do not dictate quality of care.
Okay. If you could translate the money that we're spending, I know some overtime is inevitable in the agency, is your fail-safe. How many people short would we be?
Well, right now we're using probably around 30, not FTEs, but around 30 to 35 staff members from agencies right now. and our overtime is averaging anywhere between $30,000 and $35,000 a week. So, and even with all of that, we still do not reach the 3.5 hours of care per resident per day. And to show you why hours really do not equate to quality, Shaker Place, we average right now probably around 2.7 hours of care per day, and we're 5-star in quality. So we're not at 3.5, and clearly we're still providing quality of care.
Thank you.
All right. Do any other members have questions for Mr. Slavsky? Seeing none, I would say accept a motion to move this.
So
Motion.
moved.
All right. So a motion by Mr. Bergdorf, second from
Clay.
I'll second it.
Mr. Clay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate you coming down to us.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
All
thank
right.
you.
Number 6, Majority Council.
Item 6 is authorizing a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot agreement with Altamont Road Solar LLC regarding real property located at Altamont Road in the town of New Scotland. And Mr. McGuire is here this evening.
Mr. McGuire, welcome. Lead us off.
Mr. Peter, thank you for having me. Members of the Audit and Finance Committee, good evening. Happy Memorial Day weekend all. Thanks for having me. So this is a pilot agreement for a solar array on Altamont Road in the town of New Scotland. We've had a couple of these come before the committee. This is the first that came through this calendar year, though a couple last year at the end of the year. So let's see here. This is a proposed 4-megawatt solar array that'll be on Route 146. It's near the corner of Tigert Road, kind of across the road from Indian Ladder Farms, if you will. The developer is proposing a payment of $865 per megawatt, which the first year pilot payment would be $3,460. That payment would be just to the county. This is a county-only pilot agreement. That $865 is based on a $5,000 per megawatt pilot payment that is going to be allocated to the different taxing jurisdictions based upon their percentage of typical taxing. So for this property, our taxes for the county is usually about this works out to 17.3% of that $5,000 pilot payment is at $865 per megawatt. So the combined amount is $3,460. There's a 2% escalator every year over the next 15 years. It's a pretty standard pilot agreement. If anybody has any questions about that.
And I'll call Mr. Joyce in just a second, but Mr. McGuire, just to confirm, New Scotland had opted out, so they're still going to get their whatever their tax rate will be their tax rate, and the school district is negotiating their end. So basically, everyone's made whole in this agreement, and we're getting our pilot with an escalator. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes, sir.
Okay. With that, Mr. Joyce, I believe you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Good stuff. I just have to abstain from this, so please note my abstention.
So noted, Mr. Joyce. Any questions from the members?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Mike, are we setting a precedent by the way that we are establishing a pilot here, or will all solar arrays be sort of based on their own particular criteria? You know, are we looking for something per megawatt hour, or does it depend on the size of the facility? How are we going to judge these in the future?
Sure. So across the state, developers have been paying between $5,000 and probably $4,000 and $7,000 per megawatt. So it kind of depends on where you are within New York State as to what they're paying. The pilot agreements that we had last year were within this range as well, around that $5,000 per megawatt, with the county getting our share of that based upon our typical taxing percentage. NYSERDA does have guidelines as far as what they think the typical guidance would be for pilot per megawatt. And that $5,000 figure falls within the NYSERDA guidelines for our NYSO zone, which is the capital zone. So it's Albany County and a couple neighbor surrounding counties. So the guidance provided to us by by NYSERDA and New York Sun, we're within their criteria. So that's kind of where we're at, Mr. Bergdorf, as far as, I wouldn't say it's a precedent, but we're following the guidance that's provided to us.
Okay, but what sort of factors would consider into, you said it ranges between, 5 and 4,000. What kind of factors would you be looking at with a very large number?
A lot of it comes down to what the developer is able to offer. I think on their end, these developers, this is a business for them, and they're looking at what their costs could be and their expenses. So a lot of times they will offer a number, and we try to go back and see if we can bump it up. And so my benchmark would be those NYSERDA guidelines. See if we can fall within there. And ideally, we want to be at the upper end of that if we can make it happen. At the same time, we don't want to request something that's going to be prohibitive to them and not possibly sink a proposed project. So I'm just trying to be, in that middle area, if you will.
Okay. I guess we'll see how they go in the future.
Mr. Clay, I believe you made a motion to move this, if I so recall.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Do I have a second on this?
Second.
All right. I have a second from Mr. Bruschke. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? So moved. Number 7, Majority Council.
Item 7 is authorizing the distribution of mortgage taxes for the period October 1, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. And I believe Mr. McLaughlin is here tonight.
Mr.
Yes,
McLaughlin,
thank you.
Up to the plate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, our Commissioner of Management and Budget is taking a well-deserved break, and I am dangerously venturing into the field of numbers, which I think everybody on this call knows is a dangerous thing for me indeed. But fortunately, this one's simple, just the annual distribution of mortgage recording taxes for the various municipalities. We're simply distributing to them that was collected for activity within their jurisdictions.
All right. Seems like a pretty basic thing we do every year. Are there any questions from any of the members? Seeing none, I accept a motion to move this.
I'll move.
Ms. Lakakis, and from a second from Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously, and Mr. McLaughlin will be getting us Mr. Riley's destination for vacation, so we can really prank call him with all the questions that we've ever wanted to ask.
Right, of course.
Moving on to number 8, Madam Council.
Item 8 is adopting a declaration of intent regarding reimbursement of expenditures for renovations at the Capital District Youth Center. And Mr. McLaughlin is here on that as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Chair. So this is for the projects to update Capital District Youth Center Incorporated, the juvenile detention facility over by the jail, the county jail, to raise the age standard. This will allow the facility to accept youth that are considered under the raise the age category, so the AO, adult offender category, without other measures and waivers that increase costs, and so that they can come into compliance with the rules, the new rules and requirements as set forth by New York State in raise the age. So we will be doing most of our financing through DASNY. However, in order to get the process started, we need to pass this declaration, which allows the county to set forth some funding for the design design phases of the project to get the ball rolling. And then once the bonds are issued, that money will then come back to the county. That amount should not exceed just short of $800,000. I think it's $750,000, $790,000. So that's what we're looking to do.
Okay, so this is just like a stopgap funding measure until we receive the DASNY funds. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Just to get the ball rolling. That's exactly right.
Understood. Any questions from the members?
Mike?
Yes.
Mr. Bergdorf. No, please go ahead.
Mike, you're going to be part of a pooled funding at DASNY?
Okay. So yes, we believe so. They haven't given us that 100% yet, but the original statement from them was that they were going to put all of these projects together under one financing. This is probably all something you know far better than I, because there's only, I want to say, a half a dozen of these centers throughout the state anyway, and all of them have to be brought up to spec. So yes, in all likelihood, that determination hasn't been finalized, but it is highly likely that'll be the case.
Yeah, it is highly unusual for DASNY to do projects of this
Size, right.
size with a financing. So by packaging 6 upgrades,
Right.
You spread out the cost of issuance among 6 particular issuers. And the advantage that this gives you is anything, once you declare your declaration of intent, you can then recapture any money spent under the DASNY financing.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I will take a motion to move this from any of the members.
So moved.
From Mr. Bergdorf, second by Mr. Bruschi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 9, we are going to be making a motion to table that per conversations with the county exec's office. We're just clarifying whether there's any issues with this property since it's going to a former owner being on a vacant building registry, and confirming that with the member whose district it lies in. We will pick this up next month after we get that clarification. Would we get a motion to table that till next month?
Motion to table.
From Mr. Bruschi, is there a second?
Yes, please.
From Ms. Lakakis? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Moving right along to number 10, Majority Council.
Item 10 is authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 224 Ramson Street in the city of Cahoots, and Mr. McLaughlin is here for that as well.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, folks, just a basic transfer of a property in the famous words of legislator Ethier, back to the land, to God's country, I believe is how he refers to it. This request came from the city of Cahoots, so we always defer to local control and therefore are fulfilling their request.
Sounds good. Mr. McLaughlin, any questions from the members? Seeing none, I feel like Ms. Lakakis really wants to make a motion on
I
this.
do.
Is there a second?
I'll second Ms. Lakakis' motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So Mr. McLaughlin can send Mr. Ethier the good news.
Very good. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Mike. It could be
Number-
Mr. Hard.
Just as a heads up, we're entering a number 11 and 12. Number 11 and 12 is not, we've already approved that conveyance at previous meetings. This is a legal request from legal to change certain items on that to make the conveyance fit the actual properties with some minor mistakes. But with that, I'll let Majority Council explain that for number 11 and 12. Majority Council?
Yes, 11 and 12 are add-ons to the agenda. 11 is amending a resolution number 85 for 2022 regarding authorization to convey real property located at 138 4th Avenue, 53 Lexington Avenue, and 140 Clinton Street. This would change all references to avenue for Clinton Street to street. And law has now requested specific special language be included for their conveyance process, which relates to specifically to the buyer's closing costs and to the prorated taxes.
Okay. Are there any questions on number 11 from any members? Seeing none, I will take a motion to move number 11.
I'd like to make a motion. Yes, I would.
A musical motion from Ms. Lakakis and a regular motion from Mr. Bruschi on seconding it with some jazz hands, so I'll take it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Number 12, any questions on that?
Item 12 is amending resolution number 86 for 2022 regarding authorization to convey real property located at 467 Orange Street in the city of Albany. This is the same situation. Law has requested the specific special language related to the closing costs and prorated taxes that the buyer will pay at closing.
Thank you, Majority Council. Any questions from the members? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Motion.
From Mr. Grimm, is there a second?
I'll second.
From Ms. Lakakis, sorry. All in favor?
Yes, Mr. Peters, I'm in favor.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. With that, is there any further business, Majority Council?
There is not.
Seeing none, I just want to congratulate the members that on this Thursday before Memorial Day weekend, we finished in under 30 minutes. I very much appreciate your patience with my many mistakes and foibles, specifically you, Ms. Lakakis. And with that, was there a motion to close?
Motion.
From Mr. Grimm, is there a second?
Second.
From Mr. Bruschi, seeing no exceptions, everyone, our meeting is now closed. Have